but we wanted to give kind of our perspectives and like sort of what we know about it, and it's to do with like big data. So big data is refers to this huge amount of data that we've got. All the variables in Portuguese, we're like, fucking right, we'll just analyse and see what happens. And we had this variable and we had this amazing result, and we were going, oh, how have these people not solve this? And then when we translated the variable, it was fucking days of the week.
So you were saying...
So what we wanted to talk about is something which I think everyone's very familiar with, but we wanted to give kind of our perspectives and like sort of what we know about it, and it's to do with like big data. I'm sure people have heard of it, but also like how big data and data in general is used by like social media and big tech companies and all the rest of it, like how this is enabling them to do the sort of things that they're doing and the advancements or invasions, as some may say.
I'm not sure. I think people know what data is. I'm not sure people know the distinction.
That's what I mean, like distinction between data and big data,
and
because there is a distinct difference.
Yeah.
So I think that's a good place to start. Then is what is big data?
Tell us what it is, Belly.
I think the main definition is literally like, I hate to be one of them fucking wankers. It's just big data. Like, it's a lot of data.
It literally is what it says. Yeah.
So it doesn't mean. So the problem. So big data is the point of when you have lots of data. So this is becoming very prevalent now because every one of us produces so much data. So the apps we use, the websites we go to, our phones,
the tweets you send,
the amount of data we produce in itself is enough big data to keep people happy for fucking decades.
Yeah.
But then you've got not just human generated data, you've got data from sensors. So you've got sensors everywhere, like self-driving cars. You've got them in machines. You've got them in satellites. You've got them everywhere, and they produce data at an ungodly rate because they can, because they're not human.
Yeah.
So you've got all these different ways. So big data is refers to this huge amount of data that we've got, and then the reason it becomes so prevalent is because then you can do big data analysis, and that kind of mirrors normal statistical analysis and data mining,
just on a humongous scale.
But you have to do certain things differently because of...
You know what I always wondered then around big data, Belly? Is there a number at which data becomes big?
See, this is the point, because I think a lot of people...
Do you know what I mean? Like, people refer to millions of data points as big data and then billions, but... And
then some people refer to thousands.
But they're obviously different degrees, but is there, in the actual definition, is there like, okay, that many data points is now big data?
But then, is it to do with data points? It could be size of data, so are you working with loads
exactly.
of images?
That's what I'm saying. What is the threshold?
I don't think... Well, if you know, let us know in the comments or whatever. We probably should have Googled this, but off the top of my head, it seems like this very fluid thing where there's no real kind of...
There's no distinction
off the top, like, I don't know of a distinction line, but I know if I'm working with big data.
Yeah.
Like, for example, one of the projects I'm working on at the minute is working with, like, UK Biobank stuff. And, like...
I was talking about that yesterday at that conference.
Oh, was, yeah.
There was a person there who helped generate it.
Fucking... Is it, yeah? Shit.
I forgot her name, but, yeah. About 20 years ago, she was involved in setting it up. And
yeah. So...
Anyway.
So, UK Biobank is this massive thing, collects, like... loads and loads of, like, literally tens of thousands of bits of information from 500,000 or so people. So I've been working on putting that into a database so we can access it and use it for research and that type of stuff. That's verging on big data. And I think for me, what it means is, like, in uni, we have... So the server we use is, like in-house. And it's got good GPUs in it. It's got... Basically, it's got good specs for for a server of like when we're not talking about big server nodes, for like a local server use, it's good specs.
Yeah,
and it's pushing that. Do you see what I'm trying to say?
What you said before is a good point.
Points.
Is you can have less data points if your data is just simple like numerical data.
Yeah, like what?
But you can have more, and if you've got like, you can have less images, which takes us more space
Yeah,
on
like,
a hard drive. So is that bigger data than the more data? Like what?
Like for example,
that's a weird distinction.
Like
isn't
I've
it?
done work with like breast cancer mammographies. So essentially,
Photographs,
photographs of the breast, like X-rays of the breast, trying to find breast cancer, and they're like 3,000 pixels by like 4,000 or 5,000 pixels.
Yeah.
So their file sizes are huge.
That's what I
When
mean.
so then it's basically it's like a term of how you deal with data that's like unwieldy to deal with.
I suppose
basically.
it is associated with space, then, isn't it? Maybe it is.
Maybe in some kind
But
of
as you say, I'm not
regards,
sure. It's one of those definitions that's come about, and as you say, our understanding of it is quite a fluid definition. Like people use it to denote different
and
things.
people use it when they probably shouldn't be, and that's where it gets confusing because big data's now become this like buzzword, and everyone's like, "Oh, fucking hell!"
Everyone wants to do it.
It's like machine learning AI.
Yeah.
Companies who don't need it,
People want it.
feel the need to like proper. We need to get on board with this. So people will say they analyze big data, and they definitely don't. But it's a buzzword that people know and understand. Go, oh, fucking hell.
Yeah, they have like 1,000 data points on like customer satisfaction, and they're calling it big
like
data.
if you're talking like Amazon, which we'll probably end up talking about later, if you get onto Amazon, they do big data. Because then they're not they're working with, they've got devices, they've got customer data, they've got whole warehouses and machines, they've got
machine and human generated data.
So
I can compare that to like your local solicitor company who has 500 customers in the last year, and they're calling on their website like, we do big data analysis because they've looked at like, I don't know, reviews or something, and it's like,
and here's the thing, so big data itself is a problem, it's not a benefit. So what I mean by that is, if you mean by that? You don't know how to handle big data.
Sorry, I'm eating ice there, really sorry about that.
I thought that, I just heard that.
Just started crunching down the mic.
For doing ASMR as well. Hey, we delivered a lot, guys.
Ryan's just going on about something important, and I'm just going proper starving. Go on, so you're saying.
So the point with that
why is it a problem?
The amount of data we're producing is
because
it's a nightmare to store. It's a night, and also it's a nightmare to analyze because there's lots of it. But it also raises a natural question of, like, why?
Why are you collecting
So if you say to someone,
yeah.
right, if they're not au fait, so say if someone hears big data and they go, our business needs all the data, not targeted, not anything. What are you trying to achieve? Because then I think what a lot of people do, and especially in a lot of instances, they'll collect lots of data without a strategy of why they're collecting it, and then it's how do you disseminate this massive pool of data and get because the whole point of having data is to then use either basic statistics if that's what your business requires, or going higher up the level stack and getting into deep learning, machine learning, all the rest of it, to try and extract this information which you can then use to help either improve your profits or improve your knowledge or research.
There needs to be some outcome which you'll want to achieve.
So, but like having lots and lots and lots and lots of data for the purpose of having
it could
lots
be useful,
and lots of
but
data,
you don't know what it could be useful for.
It's going to hamper your research, because then your exploratory data analysis and how you go through it, like that's going to be a nightmare. And two, what are you actually looking for?
Yeah,
and trying to find what you look, because it's that whole adage where, so correlation. So for those who aren't familiar, correlation is like, say if you're looking at a 2D plot, so as one thing increases, another thing increases. So so you'll say like, I don't know, the more I drink, the more I'll spend on Sky Bet.
Yeah.
There's a positive correlation.
The more you drink.
Yeah, because the more beverage you get, someone will go, I've got a tip here at the 340.
Because you're pissed, you go, oh my God.
Throw it on. If I was sober, I'd go, lad, it's 20-1, I'm not putting a 5 on that.
Yeah.
Anyway, so there's your positive. So it's like, it looks like as the more something else increases, the more something else increases. So in machine learning, correlations so if you have like loads and loads of bits of information, so like, say if we bring it back to a healthcare perspective, you have like age, are you a smoker, what's your height, weight,
yeah.
Having variables or bits of information that are correlated to each other can serve to hamper the model, because 2 bits of information are telling you the same thing.
Yeah.
And then the problem is, once you have lots and lots and lots and lots and lots of pieces of information, by averages, you may find correlations between variables that aren't actually correlations. Yeah. So it's like
it creates a cloudiness in the data.
So it's like the whole example of the more ice cream sales relates to the increased number of shark attacks.
Yeah, as if like
so if you see loads of ice cream sales, you like seeing more shark attacks, and the whole adage behind that is, well, it's a sunnier day, so more people are at the beach. Yeah. So you see these correlations that aren't there.
Exactly, but they're easy variables to distinguish. Like, you know, everyone knows that eating ice cream doesn't cause you to get hit by a shark, and everyone knows it's more than likely that you turn up at the beach because it's hot. But if it's variables which are hard to distinguish and you don't know what they are, it's hard to look at something which is correlated and go, that I don't know if that's true or not. But
like we've got
having loads of correlations just clouds your data, and you're saying if you don't know why you're collecting it, and you might be collecting 20 variables, 1,000 variables that are all correlated. You need to sort of know what you want to do with it in order to distinguish what can I get rid of, what don't I need.
Because I've got a perfect example of this. So when I was in my masters, I did a datathon, which is essentially, for those who...
That sounds so dorky.
I know. But it was datathon. So for those who don't know a datathon, and I'm about to make it even more dorky.
Your cool points here.
I didn't fucking have it anyway. I've rocked up in a parka and some expensive Adidas.
But after you mentioned this, you're going to get a text off your girlfriend just breaking up.
Yeah. You are no longer in a relationship. So I went to a datathon, which is essentially, it's a competition hosted by a body or an organisation, where they've got a task that they can't solve. So they'll get people in, and then they'll give you like 48 hours, and they'll give you all the data, and then you've got to go and solve it. Yeah. So we did it for a company called Galp in Portugal, which are a big oil refinery, but they're like BP, but Portuguese.
Basically, Ryan's in with the high echelons of life.
I'm just a dickhead. I'm
just a dickhead.
So they flew us out over there. So we spent the weekend in Portugal, and we were doing analysis there. And the reason I go on to this is about the big data
correlation.
So they had this new thing that did something to oil and produced an output, but it wasn't working as effectively, and it kept breaking. It was costing them loads of money. So they had loads of variables, and they were like, find us the problem. So we did loads of analysis, and we found this one variable, and we were like, oh my god. Context, all the variables are in Spanish.
So you had no idea
in Portuguese, all the variables in Portuguese. We were like, fucking right, we'll just analyse it, see what happens. And we had this variable, and we had this amazing result, and we were going, how have these people not solve this? And then when we translated the variable, it was fucking days of the week.
So you were saying, depending on the day, that's why.
So we had this like perfect fucking linear relationship, and it was obviously 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 days of the week. And we were like,
well, that's what Wes didn't Ivan go with his?
Yeah, but Portuguese, but he just so the problem with Ivan is he wasn't involved in this bit of the research. When we put the results
what language do Colombia speak?
Spanish.
Is it not Portuguese?
No.
Okay, no. I know that's South
Brazil.
America. That's Brazil.
That's Brazil, and there's a few.
I was going to say then,
so it for whatever reason it just didn't get picked up.
But it was days of the week, so like.
We were like, fucking hell. But the point, like, we've gone in a very large circle. The point to get back to is if you don't know what you're looking at. So if you just look at a cloud of data and just go, we've got clouds of data, let's do something. Yeah. You can easily run into
And there's
problems.
no way in big data as well, if you've got 1 million variables, even 100, you can go through and learn exactly what they all are. But on first glance, you don't know what these variables are. And also,
that's not a practical approach.
No, it's not practical. It's not practical, but my point is, even if you did know them well, but most people won't. And
yeah.
That's a great example. That the variables within Spanish, so you have no fucking idea.
Not a clue.
And like, so that's a problem. Like, the cloudiness of data. But sorry, I was just going to get back to talking about data collection. This isn't big data, but it sort of gives to that. You need to know what you want to do with your data before you sort of get into it. And one of my mates works for, it's a family business, and they were collecting like data on customers.
Yeah.
And it was a mess. Like they collected some bits. They hadn't got customers to fill certain things out, so the data was a mess. And he wanted to like start collecting loads of data, which is sound. You know what I mean?
But when I asked him, it's a good step.
It's a good step to start to do. But he was worrying about like variables that like he thought he needed, but he had no idea why he wanted them. Yeah. I want to start collecting this, and I was like, well, do you know what you want to get from just collecting this data? Well, not really, but like, as a small, like, there was no real, like, I think the point when you were saying you need to know your outcome, he had no idea what he wanted from it.
And then here's the point as well, is collecting lots and lots of data points is something everyone should advocate for, but only if you understand, like, how to analyse it. So having lots...
Or someone who can do that for you.
To circle back, having lots of data can be a real hamper and a restriction
if you don't know how to
analyse